Arcane as a show has had its fair share of sad moments. Powder being left by Vi being the main one, and season 2 is no exception, with Vi then being betrayed by Caitlyn moments after sealing their relationship, the death of many council members including Kate's mum, and so on. But much sadder than all those, arguably the saddest moment of the entire show, and some Arcane fans would argue the saddest moment of their entire lives, is the death of Isha. Everyone's favourite mute sidekick who sacrificed herself to protect Jinx above all, and then Vi and Caitlyn at the same time. It was an emotional, brilliant scene that just did everything right, was Isha's death scene, and had the strongest of fans tearing up. And whilst Isha's sacrifice in the moment was absolutely massive for the survival of Jinx, Vi, and Caitlyn to subdue an absolutely feral Warwick that could have very, very easily ripped every soldier in that battle to pieces, her bravery and selflessness to protect Jinx, the girl she grew to love as a sister, maybe as a mother, could also have some very, very negative impacts that could be worse than if she hadn't sacrificed herself. And while this could be hard to admit, and while it is hard to admit, Isha's sacrifice could end up resulting in a lot of worse things happening in the final act than just an angry Warwick, dangerous though he may be. And it all comes down to one character, Jinx. That's right, the same girl Isha sacrificed herself for, Jinx. But before we dive into how Jinx is going to be affected, very quickly, if you enjoy this video, please make sure to subscribe. This is a growing channel and I would hugely appreciate it. Just one click is a huge help for this channel. Into it now and see just how bad of an effect this is going to have on our old friend, Jinx. Because Isha was more than just a friend to Jinx. You see, Jinx before Isha entered her life in Act 1 was struggling, like really, really badly struggling. She was barely keeping it together and was very obviously suicidal. She no longer wanted to live, she wanted to die, and we see this in her confrontation with Vi at the end of Act 1 of Season 2, where she clearly wanted Vi to kill her. She wanted to be done with life, and wanted Vi to be the one that took her out of it, her sister. Which is such a tragic thought for a character who really doesn't deserve death, because Jinx went through it all in her early years. She was oppressed for the majority of her childhood, losing her parents before she could even properly speak, losing her sister before she was a teenager, brought up by a hard, albeit loving Silco. Jinx went through hell, and understandably didn't want to continue any longer. Until a certain someone appeared in her life, and that someone being Isha. Isha was not only able to calm Jinx down, but seemingly managed to remove her suicidal tendencies all on her own. You see, Jinx finally had someone that she cared about again, someone to live for, someone that gave her a purpose. We see a more childish side of Jinx, one that would be more expectant of her at that age. We see her almost like Powder again in moments, and the parallels between Vi and Powder and then Jinx and Isha were clear, and were soon to become tragic, as Isha sacrificed herself for her older sister in a way. So now what happens? Well, nothing good, I can promise you that, because Jinx, well, she's not going to be happy. And that is a massive understatement, because not only will Jinx be unhappy, but I'm 90% sure that those suicidal thoughts are going to be coming right back to the forefront of her mind. She has no one anchoring her to this life, no one that she wants to continue striving for, and it seems that even Vi isn't that person anymore, her own sister. It seems that Isha almost filled that void, but now that she's gone, what happens to Jinx? And whilst I don't think Jinx will actually kill herself or die, as we know that it is very likely none of the original champions from the League of Legends universe will die in Arcane, things are still most likely going to go haywire. Because whilst this most recent act of Season 2, Act 2, saw Jinx reuniting with Vi, working with her to save Vanda and fight Ambessa, I have a feeling that by Act 3, and after Isha's death, she will have once again turned fully on Vi. Because she is going to be angry. Angry at her sister for holding her back, stopping her from going to save Isha, or stopping her from sacrificing herself. And this anger that Jinx feels, that she's going to be experiencing, will most likely cause her to detach from Vi and the main characters, going off to goodness knows where. We did get one clue, however, in the Arcane Act 3 sneak peek, in which we see Jinx standing in a room on fire. Now, what this room is and where, I have absolutely no idea. But one particular theory which I'd like to say is that this is the last drop. So if you don't know, the last drop was the bar Vanda owned in the Lanes district of Zone, and of course we see it a lot in Act 1 of Season 1 and a couple times after that. Now what this suggests is that Jinx has returned to Zone, to her roots at the last drop, and decides to end things at the place where it all really started, where she lived for so many years of her young childhood with Vi, Milo, Clagger, and Vanda. And she seems in the shot in the trailer to have set the fire, and in the shot we see is doing nothing about it, accepting death. So it is very likely that yes, Jinx is attempting suicide here. However, this is a big however, I very much doubt that Jinx does die, of course for reasons I just mentioned with the League of Legends lore and everything, but I understand that I think she is perhaps somehow saved by Echo or maybe Vi. It could be anyone really. Because another shot we get in the same sneak peek from a couple of days ago for Act 3 is one of glass erupting around Jinx, who is stood in the same stance. So perhaps a window has been broken or something of the sort as someone comes in to save her. And maybe it's Savika as well, who knows? Although one theory I have is that it is Echo coming back from the whole weird time warp thing to save Jinx and recruit her to help defeat the threat that both Ambessa and Victor pose once and for all. Because of course we know that he didn't turn up once in Act 2, which it was a bit weird, but I think that he's gonna come back and he is gonna come back with a bang, which a lot of the Echo fans will love. And another idea is that it could be Vi, and I do kind of like that. Jinx runs away with her suicidal thoughts, struggling, and Vi drops everything, not knowing where to find Jinx, but still puts all of her effort into saving her sister, probably with Caitlyn. Because that would hit so hard. What an emotional scene that would be. But I think we get the idea. Jinx is not okay, and hopefully is going to be saved by someone close to her. But if not, well, it's not going to end very nicely, is it? Also, one other thing that this could be, and this is probably one of my favourites, is that this person saving Jinx in the trailer, or at least the reason for the glass erupting around her, is Warwick. Or Vander, whatever you want to call him. And I know that this sounds a bit far-fetched, so I do want to emphasise that I am not a League of Legends player and not fully invested in the lore, and there might be something right there that says Warwick dies, I don't know. But this is my idea, and probably a lot of other people's ideas, so I'm not taking full credit for it. So we know that Singed is not dead, or at least, and we're pretty confident that Singed is not dead. We see him, in fact, right there on the battlefield in the last moments of Act 2, and it is entirely possible that he could bring his creation back to life. This is because we know that he still does have wolf heads left in his lab, and we know of the feats that Singed can achieve. So it is entirely possible that he is able to resurrect Warwick, despite being seemingly obliterated by Isha, and it's entirely possible at the same time that in bringing Warwick back to life, he could turn his creation into even more of a monstrosity in the process. Which is actually such a scary and sad thought, seeing as Isha died and sacrificed herself to end the threat of Warwick to protect Jinx, and yet it could all end up being for nothing, even for the worse, with it resulting in Warwick being even more vicious and monstrous. But perhaps in this scene of the trailer, he comes back and somehow saved Jinx from committing suicide or death, whatever it is. And that would be pretty nice, though the likelihood of it, I will admit, is pretty low. But I mean, it does get worse at that, because one thing I can guarantee would be the saddest of all is if Jinx goes off, leaving Vi and the rest behind, but instead of by the end of the show reconciling with Vi and them two coming back together as sisters again, they just never see each other, and their respective stories end without ever being truly reunited as sisters. That is heartbreaking to think of. Just imagine that they go their separate ways after this and are never able to be together again. They never even get that happy ending, or we never even see them get a sad ending together. That would be horrendous. Or the other route of Jinx being heartbroken after Isha's death, but in a different plot twist, actually seeks solace in Vi instead of running away from her. Although I do think that this outcome is the least likely, seeing as I'm pretty sure she's going to be hating Vi after Vi was holding her back from going to save Isha. But now that we've talked about the possible outcomes of Jinx's situation in Act 3 and what she could do, I just want to revisit and discuss a couple of things that really do showcase just how much Isha meant to Jinx, which is, it's pretty sad. But there are some certain things about the two that I really like and I just wanted to discuss quickly. For example, one thing that I really do love about Jinx, one thing that is actually canon, is that because Isha was mute and we know that, she doesn't actually speak in her entire time at the show, Jinx actually learned sign language to be able to talk to Isha. That is an actual canon fact, and I really like it. But we're going to end off on that extremely sad and probably unnecessary note to make you even more downcast than you probably are with Isha's death. But now I open the question to you because it's a pretty important one going into Act 3 in a couple of days' time. What do you think is going to happen to Jinx? How do you think that this moment, the death of Isha, the last person she truly cared for, is going to affect her? And do you think that she could actually die by the end of the show? And of course, will those suicidal tendencies come back? And is it just going to be perhaps Jinx dies? Perhaps that's a real thing. that's a possibility. Maybe, maybe not, but either way, make sure to tell me what you think in the comments down below. Personally, I'm a fan of my theory, and probably many others' theory, that Singe manages to somehow bring Warwick back from death, effectively rendering Isha's sacrifice useless. Which isn't nice, but it's a good theory, and it could be a really cool plot twist. But thanks for watching today's video, and be on the lookout for more Arcane videos, especially this Saturday for my review of the final act of Arcane, and later more in-depth analyses of certain scenes. But thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe if you enjoyed the video, as this is a growing channel and it would really help. Darth Sauron out.